and welcome to News Now. I'm your host, Taylor Inman. We're going over the biggest headlines this week for Northwest Montana. Montana Supreme Court on Wednesday upheld a landmark climate ruling that said the state was violating residents' constitutional right to a clean environment by permitting oil, gas, and coal projects without regard for global warming. The justices, in a 6-1 ruling, rejected the state's argument that greenhouse gases released from Montana fossil fuel projects are minuscule on a global scale, and reducing them would have no effect on climate change, likening to asking, if everyone jumped off a bridge, would you do it too? The plaintiffs can enforce their environmental rights without requiring everyone else to stop jumping off bridges or adding fuel to the fire. Chief Justice Mike McGrath wrote for the majority. Only a few other states, including Hawaii, Illinois, Pennsylvania, Massachusetts, and New York, have similar environmental protections enshrined in their constitutions. The lawsuit, filed in 2020 by 16 Montanans, who are now ages 7 to 23, was considered a breakthrough in attempts by young environmentalists and their attorneys to use courts to leverage action on climate change. Lead plaintiff Ricky Held said in a statement on Wednesday that this ruling is a victory not just for us, but for every young person whose future is threatened by climate change. During the 2023 trial in State District Court, the young plaintiffs described how climate change profoundly affects their lives. Worsening wildfires foul the air they breathe, while drought and decreased snowpack deplete rivers and sustain farming, fish and wildlife recreation, and affect native traditions. Going forward, Montana must carefully assess the greenhouse gas emissions and climate impacts of all future fossil fuel permits, said Melissa Horbine, an attorney with the Western Environmental Law Center and attorney for the plaintiffs. Republican Governor Greg Gianforte said the state was still reviewing the decision, but warned of perpetual lawsuits that will waste taxpayer dollars and drive up energy bills for hardworking Montanans. He said the decision does nothing more than declare open season on Montana's all-of-the-above approach to energy, which promotes both using fossil fuels and renewables. In seeking to overturn the district court ruling, the state had argued the plaintiffs should be required to challenge individual fossil fuel development permits as they're issued, which would have involved trying to challenge even smaller amounts of emissions. Carbon dioxide, which is released when fossil fuels are burned, traps heat in the atmosphere and is largely responsible for the warming of the climate. June brought record warm global temperatures for the 13th straight month, according to European climate service Copernicus. The streak ended in July. The Montana Constitution requires agencies to maintain and improve a clean environment. A law signed by Gianforte last year said environmental reviews may not consider climate impacts unless federal government makes carbon dioxide a regulated pollutant. The Montana Supreme Court's ruling found that law to be unconstitutional. The federal judge who presided over the seditious conspiracy case against Oath Keeper members said Wednesday that it would be frightening if the anti-government group's founder, Stewart Rhodes, is pardoned for orchestrating a violent plot to keep Donald Trump in the White House after he lost the 2020 presidential election. President-elect Donald Trump repeatedly has vowed to pardon rioters who stormed the U.S. Capitol nearly 4 years ago. Rhodes is serving an 18-year prison sentence after a jury convicted him and other Oath Keeper members of seditious conspiracy, the most serious charge stemming from the January 6, 2021 attack by a mob of Trump supporters. U.S. District Judge Amit Mehta alluded to the prospect of Rhodes receiving a presidential pardon as he sentenced William Todd Wilson, a former Oath Keepers member from North Carolina who pleaded guilty to seditious conspiracy. The notion that Stewart Rhodes could be absolved of his actions is frightening and ought to be frightening to anyone who cares about democracy in this country, Mehta said. Mehta isn't the first judge at the federal courthouse in Washington, D.C. to criticize the possibility that Trump could pardon hundreds of Capitol rioters when he returns to the White House next month. U.S. District Judge Carl Nichols, a Trump nominee, said during a hearing last month that it would be beyond frustrating and disappointing if the Republican president-elect issues blanket pardons to Capitol rioters. On the campaign trail this year, Trump repeatedly referred to January 6 rioters as hostages and patriots, and he said he would absolutely pardon rioters who assaulted police if they're innocent. Trump also suggested that he would consider pardoning former Proud Boys leaker Enrique Tarrio, who was sentenced to 22 years in prison for a separate plot to stop the peaceful transfer of power from Trump to President Joe Biden. Over 20 judges have presided over more than 1,500 cases against people charged in the January 6 riot. Many Capitol riot defendants have asked for post-election delays in their cases, but judges largely have denied their requests and forged ahead with sentencing, guilty pleas, and other hearings. Rhodes and his followers amassed weapons and set up quick reaction force teams at a Virginia hotel that could ferry guns into the nation's capital if they were needed to support the plot. The guns stayed at the hotel, but Mehta said it is chilling to think that, quote, one order from a madman would have led to weapons deployed during a riot. A proposal to put nearly 33,000 acres of working forest land in northwest Montana into a conservation easement has cleared its last major hurdle. In a 3-1 vote on Monday, the Montana Land Board adopted language amending an agreement between timber company Green Diamond and Montana Fish, Wildlife, and Parks that closes the book on a conservation project that took 4 years and nearly $40 million to finalize. The Montana Great Outdoors Conservation Easement is located between Kalispell and Libby and encompasses parts of the Salish and Cabinet Mountains. The roughly 33,000 acres of land will be protected from development to support wildlife habitat and key landscape connectivity, according to FWP. An FWP memo on the project says the easement also provides permanent free public recreation access to the enrolled lands while sustaining their use as a working forest. The U.S. Forest Service's Montana Forest Legacy Program is putting $20 million toward the easement. Habitat Montana, a fund administered by FWP, is contributing $1.5 million, and the Trust for Public Lands coordinated another $4.2 million for the financial support of the project. Finally, Green Diamond is donating about $14 million of the land's value. The easement is perpetual, meaning the terms of the agreement will remain in effect indefinitely even if Green Diamond later sells the land. In addition to supporting long-term timber harvest, the easement will confer tax benefits to Green Diamond, which owns and manages working forest in 9 states throughout the southern and western U.S. According to an FAQ on the easement, Green Diamond will continue to pay local property taxes in Lincoln, Sanders, and Flathead counties once the easement is recorded. The easement faced a tumultuous path to adoption. When the Land Board first voted on it in October, WRH Nevada Properties, which owns the mineral estate beneath approximately half of the 33,000 acres, argued that the easement jeopardized its ability to develop the subsurface mineral estate. Peter Scott, an attorney representing WRH and Citizens for Balanced Use, argued before the Land Board on October 21st that the board would be ill-advised to authorize the easement while a lawsuit over it is pending, and given that ground-disturbing activities are not compatible with the Montana Forest Legacy Program's purpose. To help alleviate that concern, the board voted in October to draft language recognizing its intention to protect the mineral rights holders' ability to access and develop their mineral rights within the easement's bounds. The board's 3-1 vote effectively alters the easement to read that the mineral rights holders shall not be infringed upon. The mineral rights holders will retain the ability to enter and use the conserved land for exploration, recovery, and development of the minerals consistent with state law, per the language adopted by the board. State Superintendent and Land Board member Elise Ardson opposed a final vote on the easement, arguing that more discussion is needed and indicating that the state legislature, which is set to gavel for its biennial session next month, may be inclined to weigh in. She sought to postpone final action until at least the spring, a delay Governor Greg Gianforte did not support for fear it would compromise the Forest Service's $20 million contribution to the easement. Arnson also attempted to issue a no vote by proxy for Montana Attorney General and Land Board member Austin Knudsen. Gianforte, who chairs the Land Board, said only members who are actively present can vote. Gianforte also struck down an amendment offered by Secretary of State and Land Board member Christy Jacobson to make the easement subject to a 99-year term rather than perpetual. The second stage of the Montana Great Outdoors Conservation Easement is still in development. It's estimated to top 52,000 acres to the west and south of the Lost Trail National Wildlife Refuge. Thanks for joining us. News Now is a podcast from the Daily Interlake. We're proud to be the largest independent newsroom in Montana and the longest continuously published newspaper in the region. Local journalism is important, and subscribing to your local newspaper is one of the best things you can do for your community. The Daily Interlake is celebrating its 135th birthday with a special subscription offer of only $19.50 per month for a home-delivered newspaper, plus full digital access to all 8 of our award-winning independent newspapers. Give us a call at 406-755-7018 to sign up today and do your part to keep community journalism alive and thriving. And if you haven't already, subscribe to our YouTube channel to never miss an episode of the pod. Everybody stay safe and have a great week. Thanks to our sponsor, Lauren's Auto Repair at 1309 US Highway 2 in Kalispell. Most consistently rated 5-star shop serving the Kalispell area. Visit lawrensauto.com.